Hi, I'm Anthony Originello, CEO of the Chartered Professionals in Human Resources for BC and Yukon. We represent more than 8,000 members, and as the organization dedicated to advancing the HR profession through education, advocacy, awareness, professional development, as well as our recognized and impactful CPHR designation, we are proud to be a sponsor of this show. We have been the voice of the HR profession since 1942. Learn more about us at cphrbc.ca.
In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Alex Cordero, the author of How to Be a Dude in the 21st Century. That's one of his many jobs, but we're going to start there. Alex, welcome.
Thank you, Stuart.
You wrote this book. That makes you an author.
Yes.
What's the process like of writing a book?
Well, I think number one is to find an inspiration and be engulfed and obsessed with that inspiration. And once you're fully engulfed in that inspiration, you find a way to get it done, to make it happen.
Oh, yeah. It sounds relatively easy when you say find a way, but finding that way takes a particular amount of motivation, because when you're doing that work, there's nobody sitting over your shoulder saying, you have to produce this by this time tomorrow.
That's correct. I hit about 10 or 11 writer's block moments. It took me 4 years to complete my book from start to publication. And in those 4 years, there was a lot of struggle, a lot of internal struggle for me to keep going. But I knew, because of my obsession with this and my inspiration, that I always found a way to start writing again.
What were a couple of the tricks that you used to motivate yourself to keep going?
To live life, to experience, to be human. And every time that I would hit a funk, or I would have a funk, I would try to live. I would try to dance, play tennis, talk to people. Instead of being introverted and running away, I would engage. And once my social batteries were recharged, then I was able to write again.
So what's interesting to me is that you wrote a book where you wouldn't say, yeah, I went to school, I studied for multiple years, I've got this degree and this vast amount of experience, and therefore I'm the expert on this. But it's something that you became passionate about and went out and researched and wrote the book. Mm-hmm. Where did you develop the gumption to be able to say, yeah, I have every right to write this book?
Well, I don't proclaim to be any expert in anything. You know, I've lived 53 years and I've experienced a lot through work, through personal experiences, through work experiences. But what I can say is that these are my observations, and I'm confident in my observations. You know, as Malcolm Gladwell says in his book, Outliers, once you do something for so long, like for myself, you know, I'm very comfortable speaking and communicating and making friends and speaking to strangers. Once your communication skills get to automatic stage or expert level, then it's easy to start to absorb wisdom and knowledge from different places. The secret is to have an open mind and an open soul and open heart to absorb information and to know and to admit that you're wrong. If I have an idea and there's new evidence that suggests that my current idea is wrong, I don't have an ego to say, or a big enough ego to say, no, this idea is wrong. I will listen and absorb. And with all these skills that I develop every day, I was able to write the book.
I hope you appreciate that what you were talking about, having an open mind and a willingness to change your perspective, is a rare thing, because most people work their way through lives and develop this worldview, and they don't want to do the work of unwinding what they spend a lot of time creating. What was it in your experience that made you say, nope, I'm open to information that will change the way in which I see the world?
Well, I'll share this. When I was 20, I thought I knew everything. My dad and my mom, they're amazing people. They're not with us anymore, but amazing people. And they would give me life lessons and say this. And I always thought, you know, I would always try to challenge them. 33 years later, as I've gotten older, I realized that I don't know that much that I thought I did when I was 20. And, you know, because I have experienced now that there's so much to learn, and we don't know everything. And it's amazing to learn something new every day. It's an amazing gift that we have as humans, is to be able to learn.
You know, as you were saying that, I was reminded of that quip from Mark Twain when he said, "When I was 16 years old, I thought my father was the stupidest man in the world. But by the time I was 21, I was amazed at how much he had learned in those 5 short years."
Yes.
It's true. So let's talk about your career. How did you wind up getting to be an author? When you graduated from high school, what were your plans?
My plans was to own 5 buildings in Manila, to be a multi-gazillionaire. That was my plan.
And
it didn't work out that way. I became a golf pro, and I became a coach and a teacher, which actually enriched me even more than the financial, because what I've learned with humanity and coaching and the human experience has given me so much wealth. And I wouldn't trade it for any dollar amount in the world.
well, what took you from going, I'm going to be a gazillionaire in Manila, to the golf course?
Well, I became a really good golfer, and I thought that I could become a PGA Tour member. But then when I tried to qualify in the 1999 Air Canada Championship, I tried to qualify, and I played with a fellow named Tony Carolyn from Australia. He was 6'5", 230 pounds. He hit the ball 60 yards past me. He hit his irons better than me. He putted better than me. His short game was better than mine. And he was struggling to pay his bills on the mini tours. And at that moment, I had an epiphany, like, I can't become a professional golfer. I have to start teaching, and I have to start making money in a different way.
So you became a professional, as in teaching.
Yes, teaching. Yes. So my aspirations to become a professional golfer became nil. So that passion of golf actually got me into the golf playing and golf industry, which was amazing, because golf is a great life lesson builder. It's a great game, and I recommend anybody to try to take up golf. It's a very frustrating game, I will warn everybody, but that's why it's a beautiful game, because once you overcome the frustration, you start to learn patience and to have an open mind.
Are you still a teaching pro?
I don't teach golf anymore because I play a lot of tennis. So I've become more of a tennis person, a tennis coach, and tennis player. So actually this week there's Canadian Nationals, and I'll be playing in the over 50 division, singles and doubles. So I've turned my passion from golf into tennis. But also because of my age, I made a decision that tennis would maybe prolong my life a little bit more than golf, just because of the physical exercise.
What other work have you done along the way to being an author?
Well, so after golf, I opened a driving school. Again, just
because you're an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur, and I decided, I can take my talents of teaching golf, and I can teach young people how to drive, which was surprisingly a lot easier than teaching golf. Even though it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, I was always calm. I never got in a crash with a student, and it was actually a very, very important job. I was able to help thousands of young people develop real confidence on the roads, but in themselves.
Huh. So what is it about being an entrepreneur that appeals to you?
Well, what appeals to me is that I can set my own time, and I can make as much or as little as I want, depending on how hard I work. So there were times I was working 16 hours.
A day?
A day. 5-6 days a week.
And
these are really good things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for everybody, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be prepared to put in the work.
Well, that is the thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. And that's the trade-off. I mean, you could have a more stable job, but as an entrepreneur, you really get back what work you put in, or what effort you put into your business.
Well, it's risky.
Yes.
The rates of entrepreneurship are dropping.
Yes.
Fewer and fewer people are doing it.
Yes.
From your perspective, what's your 1 or 2 top tips for somebody who goes, yeah, I think I want to own my business?
Well, number one is be prepared to roll up your sleeves and work hard. And number two,
Harder than you ever thought.
harder than you ever thought.
Right.
And number two is to not have a big ego. Because as an entrepreneur, even if you think you're right, you have to lower your ego and not try to be confrontational with your customers.
You pay a big price for being an entrepreneur, though, because it affects you in relationships and like both your most important ones and your extended relationships, because you're always working.
That's correct. That's correct. So that's the price you pay for the perceived freedom that you have. So these are things that you have to do a risk assessment and make sure that you're ready for this career.
So what do you think it is in your personality that makes you right to have followed the path that you did? Which, of course, you've been successful. But what was it about you that you believe helped you to get to this point?
Well, I believe it's all the times I fell down. And I believe that when you fall down, every time you get back up, you get stronger. And you learn things as you're falling down, as you hit the floor. And before you get back up, you're already learning things. And each time you fall down, you find different techniques to get back up. And sometimes you have to force yourself. And then it becomes easier. It becomes subconscious. Eventually, failure is not, there's no emotion tied to it anymore. Because, if you're not afraid to fail, then you're not afraid, and then you have all the courage to do things.
Early on when I was starting my business and something would go sideways, I'd go, like I was hard on myself, down and so on. But as you say, you start to build your way through that. Mm-hmm. And now when something goes a little bit sideways, my response actually is, well, you never know when you're having good luck. Because that didn't work out, you're forced to look at other opportunities or ways of addressing the challenge that you may never have even considered had you been successful straight the way through. So those setbacks can actually be nudging you in a direction that moves you towards much greater success.
J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, took her manuscript to 13 different publishers, or 13 different publishers, and they said no. But she had enough belief in herself and her manuscript that she took it to a 14th one, and they said yes, and now she's J.K. Rowling. So that is a great lesson for everybody, that it's not easy, but you have to fall down. And if you can learn not to take it personally when you fall down, if you can learn how to just get back up without worrying so much, it's a skill that can be learned. It's a great skill that modern people, young people, could learn better. And if we can give them the opportunity to do more kinesthetic learning, hands-on, fail, try to figure it out, get back up, try to figure it out. Like us with the Rubik's Cube, or there were a lot of things that we didn't have instructions 30, 40 years ago. We just had to try to figure it out. Right. Now, because of YouTube, and YouTube is great, or Google is great, but we're not as inventive, we're not as resilient in trying to find ways to figure things out by ourselves. I actually see it. It's there's so many young people that they have a hard time opening a door, or opening a can, or opening a bottle of wine. Very basic things that we take for granted now have become very difficult, and then they have a difficulty, they Google it. But these are things that if we can give them the opportunity to have hands-on ways to figure things out, I think that maybe in the school system, instead of we could add this in the curriculum. I don't know how, I'm not an expert, I don't have a master's in education, but they can probably figure out some techniques or some ways for them to integrate.
Well, thank you for sharing your career experience with us and giving us some insights into what have helped you to be a success.
Thank you, Stuart, for having me on your show.